You have a new job now, and Peter Donnelly of the Council of the Arts said that you're well-grounded in the arts community. And what does he mean when he says that you're well-grounded in the arts community?
Well, I think that he must be referring to the fact that I grew up here as part of an artist family. My dad is a sculptor, and he's internationally known, and I have 3 brothers, each of whom is an artist, 2 musicians and a sculptor. My mother also is a professional artist in the sense that she practices Japanese traditional arts. And so I've grown up with all of that, and I decided to study art history. I did go to the Seattle Times, and I was a professional journalist, but during that time I did find my way into arts writing. And finally, after working on a lot of community arts projects, especially in the Asian American community, I found myself working with the King County Arts Commission, and I felt really comfortable here and felt I could use my talents and background that way.
What was it like growing up in an artistic family? I mean, everyone in the family does something.
Well, I think that it was a lot of fun. I mean, there isn't a way to say that it was qualitatively better or worse than anyone else's family, but I do know that my parents always took us to museums. Every time we went to another city, we had to go to the major museum in that city, and they always had important visitors who were artists. And I didn't know as a kid whether they were important or not, but they were people who were truly involved and dedicated and sensitive to aesthetics and to every art form. We had painters, we had Mark Toby, Paul Horiuchi, all of these, and No and Kyogen, actors from Japan. They were just visiting in the house. They were just there and talking late into the night, you know, wild parties that were totally involved with the arts. And it was something that we really couldn't avoid. I didn't try to study art in school necessarily. In fact, my parents didn't really like all the art teachers that they had in the public schools, but we had in our lives all the time some kinds of going to performances, going to art shows, having conversations. And I think that it paid off in the long run. All of us are truly, truly involved and dedicated to the arts. It was a great time.
I want to go back to what Peter Donnelly said again. Now, he said a couple of things. One, that you're well-grounded in the arts community, but he also said that you understand how the arts community works. What are some of the important dynamics that you need to know about the art community and how it works?
Well, there's a big difference between knowing the lives of artists and knowing the economics and the politics of the arts community. I think he's right. I have been around for quite a while. I've been with the King County Arts Commission for 7 years, and before that I was involved with community arts, especially Asian American community arts. And I think that by now I certainly know the economics in terms of public funding, private funding, individual donations that make the arts an economy that really has to work. The selling of individuals' artworks is really, really important. The presentation and marketing. For example, there are a number of artists of color, they may be newcomers to the area or to this country, who don't necessarily know how to present themselves and their work. So the economics of the arts are really important. And then, of course, the politics in terms of what laws get passed to provide what kind of funding, the annual budget crunch as it is. Each year we try and get adequate funding for all of our programs so that we don't have to cut back on any particular service that might serve those outside the city, those in rural areas, those who are disabled, and so on. It's a very many-layered and much textured kind of economic situation.
Is being a woman and then being a person from an ethnic community, do you feel that people would be expecting something more or a higher degree of sensitivity, being that you are a person from a traditionally non-represented group?
Well, I hope they do. I very much have been involved in minority arts projects all my life. One of my degrees is in East Asian history. I would expect, after all of this involvement, for people to have expectations of me, for me to be kept aware of all of the issues that are going on. And I do try, despite really demanding schedule, I do try and really stay in touch with all of the ethnic communities and try and always seek ways, with the help of my staff and commissioners, seek ways to better the access to funding and so on.
Women in ethnic minority groups have been traditionally non-represented in terms of funding. What does the King County Arts Commission do to help them gain access to the benefits of the King County Arts Commission?
Well, I am not sure that women have been funded to a lesser degree than men. We don't have that many women's art projects, but that might be more an indication of the availability in the field. However, I think in terms of multicultural arts, we should always strive more to fund the ethnic arts more. We have had a special populations program for disabled artists and disabled audiences, and we are keeping that up at a good funding level. But what we're trying to do now is make sure that rather than having a separate category of funding for ethnic arts and disabled artists, to try and make sure that every one of our program areas, for example, we have a touring program, we have major public arts commissions, we have major theaters commissioning new works by composers and choreographers and so on. We want to make sure that every one of those fields are integrated and that show a good, diverse representation of the artists of color of this region.
What is the Citizen Volunteer Arts Commission?
Well, our Arts Commission has 18 volunteer members who are citizens from throughout the county. Some of them are artists, some of them are arts administrators, but a fair number of them, about half, are not specifically involved in the arts as a profession. They may be business people, they may be parents who stay at home, they may be teachers, they may come from another profession. And it is really important for us to have this mix and this diversity. It's interesting, though, how they come together and they really learn to work together despite their professional and value differences.
How are citizen volunteers selected to be part of the Arts Commission?
When we have vacancies on the Arts Commission, we always announce them in our newsletter and also send out notices to arts organizations and public notices through the media. We get a variety of nominations that way, and then we also have nominations from the county council members themselves and the other commissioners from arts organizations and so on. We do interview them, but as well, the King County Executive has the power to appoint the candidates, and the county council must confirm them. So the county executive's office also suggests candidates for appointment.
Now, the commission also, of course, determines who gets funded and who doesn't get funded.
Yes.
You know, what is good art and what is not good art. How does the commission determine that?
That's very dangerous when you start talking about what is good art and what is bad art. Of course, you know there is every possible configuration and genre and medium and so on within the arts field, and we have so many different disciplines among visual and performing and so on. What we do to preserve the quest for diversity and the changing definition of what is good art is that we use citizen panels which are made up of both arts professionals and citizens from the field. And this is called the peer panel jury process, and of course during the NEA reauthorization debate this became a very important kind of consideration in whether Congress felt that the peer panel jury was the correct way to choose good or acceptable art for public funding. We believe very strongly in the peer panel process. We have peers within a given discipline judge their own peers who are applying for grants, and we always have a citizen representative. Then the panel jury recommendations go to the commission. The commission looks over the list and approves it, also approves the list of those who are not funded, and then the grants are made. I like to think that our King County Arts Commission provides a real good balance in all of the different types of funding within all of the artistic fields. We try our hardest to make sure that the juries are diverse, that every year different jurors are included, and that we have a real different mix of, under the quote, what is good art every year.
How have artists, ethnic artists especially, how have they met the challenge of change in terms of getting funded?
I think that the ethnic artists couldn't and shouldn't be lumped into one category. Within that group, you're going to have every type of person. You're going to have the well-established, highly educated, and politicized artists who know how to get those grants, whose names are out there, who are quite well known, they get media attention. You're going to have a younger group, or a group that is less knowledgeable about how to go out there and get their names out, get shows with galleries. And you're going to have newcomers too. You're going to have people who are new to this country, new to this area, who don't quite know the lay of the land. And I think that that's always been the case in the 60s and 70s and 80s. What's really important to note now is that there's more money in it now, which means that there should be more ethnic artists or more grants for ethnic artists proportionately. But also I think what's important to note is that all of the arts commissions have really tried to reevaluate themselves in terms of the multicultural diversity of their staff, of their commission, of the grants and panels, so that we have periodic reviews, periodic meetings, and we continually try to renew that process.
There's quite a diversity in the population of kids that are going to the public schools. Now, they're going to be coming up. They're the new artists that are going to be coming on the scene. What is the King County Arts Commission's involvement with schools and getting kids involved in knowing about this whole process?
Well, I'm really glad you asked about that, because this year kicks off our very first year, and actually a very strong year, of arts and education funding. With the new funding we've been able to realize through the hotel motel tax excess revenues, we have a new arts and education program that will put approximately $1 million of new funding specifically into the schools for arts education. And the County Council Representative Ron Sims really started this, because he felt very strongly that every child, regardless of economic background, should have access to good professional training in the arts, and whether that means residency at the school with a professional artist, or visiting professional theater or symphony. All of these things are really important in order for a child to see some role models, to get excited, to think about the world in different ways through the arts. So our funding is going to public schools. It is going all over the county. So we have every different economic income level represented among those schools. But I'm hoping that with some of these model programs this year, they are programs which involve the entire curriculum, teaching math with the arts, teaching science, and so on, that this will give us a good start towards catching up, actually, where the arts have been so badly defunded in the public schools in the past.
Let's say that I am then an individual who's not hooked up with an organization, or who really doesn't know what is going on. And say I come to this office, somebody directs me here, and I want to know about funding, and I want to know about the benefits of the Arts Commission. What could I expect from your staff if I walk into this office?
Well, I hope that you could expect more than just our Guide to Programs thrust in your direction. We do have a Guide to Programs that's very extensive, that shows all of our programs. We also have staff members who specialize in every different program area. So we have those two avenues, and in addition we have monthly commission meetings and committee meetings which are open to the public, and these are the meetings during which funding decisions are made. So I would say that a person who is new to the field really needs to do his or her homework, read the material, talk with us. It may take more than one call to get to the program coordinator you need to speak with, to come to the public meetings which are announced in the media, and to come to commission meetings. That is the way that you learn to get involved.